It's easy to miss avoidant behavior when it doesn't look like anything wrong. The person seems kind, stable, even easygoing. They don't cause problems. They don't make scenes. But something doesn't feel complete. There's a lack of openness, even when they're around. It's in the way they keep things on the surface. It's in how they smile through things they'd rather not talk about. And little by little, that pattern starts to shape the connection. Avoidant behavior often hides behind politeness or independence. The person doesn't ask for much, doesn't complain, doesn't seem needy. But they also don't fully engage. They keep things in a comfort zone where emotions stay low and control stays high. You might notice they avoid personal questions, or they talk about their life without ever showing you what's really going on inside. They're present, but distant. Open, but only to a point. Sometimes they focus on practical things. They're busy, responsible, productive, but emotional presence, that part stays locked away. When things start to feel close, they slow down or pull back. Plans stay vague. Messages become shorter. Eye contact drops. And even if they don't say anything directly, their actions tell you, this is as close as I'm willing to get. They're not pushing people away in dramatic ways. They just stop moving forward. They stop showing curiosity. They stop creating moments that bring two people closer. Everything stays safe. Everything stays controlled. You might not even notice it's happening. You just start feeling like you're the only one reaching across the gap. For someone with avoidant tendencies, closeness feels like a risk. Depending on others feels uncomfortable, so they create space, even without meaning to. That space can feel small in the beginning, but it adds up. You start holding back too. You avoid saying too much. You wait for them to make a move, and they don't. Before you realize it, connection turns into effort, and effort turns into confusion. Recognizing avoidant behavior means noticing what's missing, not just what's there. It means paying attention to how much someone participates emotionally, not just how often they show up. When presence lacks depth, when openness is always limited, you're not imagining it. That's avoidant behavior doing exactly what it does best, keeping things controlled and keeping people out. Avoidant behavior can be hard to notice at first because it often wears a friendly face. The person might come across as charming, intelligent, funny, and even thoughtful. They might make you feel special in subtle ways, through compliments, shared jokes, small acts of kindness. There's a rhythm to the way they interact that feels easy. But underneath all of it, something's missing. Not in a dramatic way, just in the sense that things never seem to deepen. They keep things smooth and comfortable. They know how to hold attention, how to create lightness, how to seem relaxed in most situations. But real closeness isn't built on charm. It's built on openness, on presence, on emotional exchange. That's where avoidant patterns begin to show. The surface stays shiny, but you start to realize that very little is happening underneath. An avoidant person can be fully present in the moment while quietly avoiding depth. They might flirt, ask questions, tell stories, but they steer away from anything that would require vulnerability. They're good at conversation, as long as it doesn't involve anything that feels too personal. When emotional topics come up, they might crack a joke or move on quickly. They don't invite closeness. They manage it. Avoidant people rely on control to feel okay in relationships. If they can keep things predictable, they avoid the discomfort of being too exposed. That's why many of them use charm as a way to stay connected just enough, without risking anything real. They may open up a little, but only on their terms. They might share a memory or admit something light-hearted, but deeper feelings, real fears, or honest struggles, those stay hidden. You might feel like there's something important being left out, but it's hard to say what. They'll keep things light. They'll stay friendly. And they'll never go deeper than that. That's the trick with emotional distance. It doesn't feel obvious at first, especially when the person is fun to be around. But as time goes on, the pattern becomes clear. You're giving more than you're getting. You're opening up and they're staying in one place. The space between you doesn't shrink. It quietly holds. Avoidant behavior isn't cold or mean. It just keeps the connection safe. For them. And if you're not careful, you'll start adjusting everything just to maintain something that never truly arrives. One of the clearest signs of avoidant behavior is when someone's words and actions don't match. They say they care, they say they want connection, and they might even talk about building something real. But when it's time to follow through, the behavior doesn't line up. What they say sounds sincere. What they do tells a different story. They might talk about spending time together but rarely make concrete plans. They say they're emotionally available but avoid anything that feels personal. They act interested but don't stay consistent. And when you ask for clarity, the answers don't clear anything up. They just create more confusion. People who avoid closeness often have routines that protect them and keep others out. Avoidant people often aren't trying to mislead anyone. Many of them genuinely believe what they say. They like the idea of closeness. They like being liked. But when emotional effort is required, they hold back. They may not even realize it. For them, keeping things light feels safer. They avoid uncomfortable topics, delay responses, and find ways to avoid deeper connection while keeping up a friendly tone. At first, the words might keep you hopeful. You want to believe in what they're saying. You assume it's just a matter of time before their actions catch up. But time keeps passing, and nothing changes. The relationship stays in place. It doesn't grow. It doesn't deepen. You're always trying to read between the lines, and that's exhausting. What happens next is subtle but real. You start managing their comfort. You become more careful with what you say. You give them space, even when you need closeness. You hold back emotions because you've learned they don't respond well to them. You try to avoid bringing up your needs because you don't want to sound demanding. Without realizing it, you're doing most of the emotional work. They might still show signs of interest, short messages, occasional compliments, time together here and there, but those moments don't build into anything stable. You keep waiting for the relationship to move forward, but it doesn't. You're carrying all the weight, hoping they'll meet you halfway. They may give explanations that sound honest. I'm not used to this. I've been busy. I'm trying to figure things out. But none of those reasons come with actual change. They calm the situation without improving it. You're still stuck in the same dynamic. One person waiting, the other avoiding. Healthy connection involves action. It doesn't rely on constant explanations. If someone cares, they'll show it in consistent ways. They'll follow through. They'll take your feelings seriously. They'll respond with presence, not avoidance. You won't have to chase honesty or guess what they're thinking. Their actions will reflect their words and you'll feel it. Avoidant behavior keeps people in a holding pattern. It creates the illusion that something meaningful is happening, when really, things are staying exactly the same. That's not by accident. It's how the avoidant person stays in control. By keeping emotional distance, they avoid feeling vulnerable. And by using the right words at the right time, they avoid confrontation too. You might find yourself thinking back to the nice things they said. The connection seemed real. But connection isn't just about saying the right thing in the moment. It's about showing up when it counts. If the effort isn't there, the words don't carry weight. The hardest part is realizing that no matter how much you care, You can't build something real with someone who won't meet you with honesty and effort. You can't keep convincing yourself that words are enough. You can't keep ignoring how much of the work is falling on you. If you keep having the same conversations, asking for the same things, and nothing changes, that's your answer. Not in what they're saying, but in what they're not doing. Not everyone avoids love by walking away. Some just keep things casual forever. Pay attention to what they follow through on. Pay attention to how they respond when you're clear about your needs. Pay attention to how much of the relationship depends on you staying quiet, careful or small. That's the cost of being with someone who avoids. Avoidant behavior isn't always obvious in the beginning, but over time, it shows itself clearly through lack of action. Once you stop filling in the blanks, once you stop hoping the behavior will catch up to the words, you'll see it for what it is. And you'll know it's not your job to fix it. One way avoidant behavior keeps control is through unpredictability. They don't raise their voice. They don't cause drama. They create confusion through inconsistency. When attention becomes irregular, when availability comes and goes, the other person starts to adjust. That adjustment is where the cycle begins. You'll notice they're not fully gone. They reply to messages. They check in. They stay just involved enough to keep things active, but they don't maintain the same energy. Their level of presence changes without warning. They don't offer explanations. They don't seem bothered. You're left wondering if something happened, but nothing is said and nothing is asked. Some avoidants become extremely polite during the pullback phase. Short messages, neutral tone, minimal engagement, all of it wrapped in a smile. They'll ask how your day was, but won't respond if you answer with detail. They'll confirm plans, but you'll feel like they're showing up out of obligation. The shift isn't in their words, it's in how flat everything starts to feel. They can also mask distance by becoming helpful. Instead of connecting emotionally, they offer to fix something, send a link, share a playlist, give advice. It looks like care, but it avoids closeness. They stay in action mode, not emotional mode. The result is contact without intimacy. During the push phase, some avoidants take on a version of themselves that feels harder to read. Sarcasm increases, eye contact fades, physical affection drops. They keep conversation moving, but away from anything personal. If you bring up the distance, they minimize it or change the topic. The energy shifts, but the door never fully closes. That's what makes it hard to name. When things start to warm up again, they don't bring it up. They just start responding faster, making time, showing interest, as if the distance didn't happen. There's no mention of the disconnect, no accountability. You're expected to pick up where things left off. And you do, because asking questions tends to create more distance. So the cycle resets. Some avoidants create balance by offering small emotional moments in between long stretches of nothing. They'll say something thoughtful once, then disappear for days. They'll share one story about their past, then become emotionally unavailable again. This rationing of closeness makes you feel like you just need to be patient, but patience turns into silence, and silence turns into confusion. They avoid labeling the relationship. They avoid defining expectations. They say they go with the flow, but somehow manage to direct everything. They don't express clear boundaries, but they punish you when you cross invisible ones. That punishment usually comes in the form of distance, a sudden drop in engagement, a change in tone, or the sense that you've said too much. You start to notice patterns around vulnerability. The closer you get, the less available they become. If you're going through something and need support, they become vague or overly logical. If you try to share how you feel, they nod and move on. They don't reject your emotions outright. They simply don't join you in them. Avoidant people often stay neutral to avoid feeling exposed. They'll avoid intensity, even when intensity is appropriate. You might find yourself softening everything you say, editing your messages, avoiding any wording that could sound like pressure. You become skilled at staying in their comfort zone, a zone they never explain, but always expect you to understand. Communication can become tricky when you're with an avoidant partner. You might start holding back how you feel because you don't want to scare them off. You might edit your texts several times before sending, worried that any hint of drama or deeper emotion will push them away. In a healthy relationship, you should feel comfortable being yourself, happy, sad, excited, nervous, all of it. When you're forced to walk on a narrow emotional tightrope, it can be exhausting. Over time, you might lose track of your own needs because you're so focused on not crossing their invisible lines. Avoidant partners also tend to keep you in the dark about their internal world. You can spend hours, days, or months together, yet still feel like you hardly know them. They might share random facts about their lives, but rarely open up about personal struggles or deeper feelings. When you try to ask, you get responses like, "It's no big deal," or "I don't like talking about the past." While everyone has a right to privacy, genuine connection usually involves some give and take. If you're the only one ever opening up, you may start to feel a bit lonely in the relationship. Along with that, an avoidant partner might keep you from meeting their family or close friends for much longer than usual. They might say things like, "It's too soon," even after several months. Meeting friends and family is often a step toward deeper involvement, so someone who's avoidant can stall this process to avoid the sense of commitment that comes with it. If this happens over and over, no matter how patient you've been, this could be a sign that they're unwilling to move into a more meaningful stage of your relationship. Perhaps the biggest sign is how you feel most of the time. If you often feel confused, anxious, or like you're trying way too hard to keep them interested, take that seriously. A good relationship might have challenges, but it shouldn't leave you feeling drained or constantly unsure of where you stand. Emotions are meant to be shared and understood, not avoided or minimized. If you feel like you can't bring up normal, natural concerns without them disappearing or tuning out, it's worth asking yourself whether this dynamic is healthy for you in the long run. Recognizing an avoidant partner can feel overwhelming, especially if you've invested a lot of time and emotion. It's worth noting that avoidance isn't always deliberate. Often, it's learned as a way to protect themselves from pain. While it's fine to empathize, it's also important to see how this pattern affects you. Constantly feeling unsure, anxious, or unfulfilled can wear you down. You deserve a partner who shares emotions openly and works toward genuine closeness. If you notice avoidant habits, try having a calm, honest talk. Some people aren't aware they're pushing others away until it's brought up. If they're open to growth and willing to face their fears, that's a good sign. However, if they shut down or become defensive, they might not be ready to leave their comfort zone. Growth and change take self-awareness and a desire to improve. You have every right to protect your mental and emotional health if they refuse to engage. Pay attention to how you feel after interactions. If you're walking on eggshells, avoiding topics, or editing yourself, it might be time to ask if you're getting what you need. A healthy bond involves honest communication even when it's uncomfortable. If your partner dismisses your emotions or avoids discussing the future, you may be stuck in uncertainty that erodes your confidence. Remember that asking for clarity doesn't make you clingy. Knowing where you stand is part of building trust. Avoidant partners might say they hate drama, but if their behavior leaves you confused or lonely, that's drama in its own way. You deserve someone who addresses issues head-on, not someone who dodges them. It's also important to realize you can't fix avoidant behavior alone. True change takes time, self-awareness, and sometimes professional help. If your partner consistently avoids intimacy, decide whether you're willing to wait. Hope can be powerful, but it shouldn't trap you in a situation that harms your sense of self. In a healthy bond, both must share responsibilities and emotional needs. Not every rough patch indicates avoidance. Life happens, and even caring partners can struggle. The difference is when distance or vagueness shows up each time something serious arises. Feeling punished for bringing up real concerns isn't normal, and you shouldn't have to beg for basic openness. A fulfilling relationship requires mutual vulnerability and teamwork. An avoidant person can learn healthier habits if they genuinely want to, but that desire must be theirs, not yours. You can offer compassion, but you can't force growth. Your power lies in deciding the relationship you want and standing firm in that choice. If they won't meet you halfway, it doesn't mean you're unlovable. It means you value authentic connection enough not to accept less. Walking away can hurt, especially when you care. Yet sometimes, leaving a situation that isn't meeting your needs creates space for something better. Real intimacy is built on openness, respect, and emotional safety. One of the most common pitfalls is blaming yourself for their withdrawal. It's natural to wonder if you said something wrong, but avoidant patterns usually stem from a person's own fears or past hurts. Trying to tiptoe around their triggers or lowering your expectations rarely leads to true closeness. Your needs matter just as much, and a sustainable partnership should nourish both partners equally. If you find yourself constantly making excuses for them, consider whether this dynamic is fair to you in the long run. You deserve support, kindness, and a relationship where you truly feel understood. Embrace that truth, and you'll be closer to finding someone who's ready for a deeper, more meaningful connection with you. Thank you for watching.